Hi, this is Rachelle Scrapcraftastic, and I'm in the process of redoing my craft area. And so I have piles of things here and there, a couple of piles that I needed to go through. So this is part of one of them. I had packaging I was holding on to. I have some papers here from Yolanda. I have some uh, gift bags that I've opened up and torn apart in preparation for using them as journal covers. So I decided while I was going through this pile that I should go ahead and start using some of this stuff while I wait. I'm listening to an audiobook while I'm doing this, and I started working on this late evening while I was listening to the audiobook. And so I'm just getting started. I'm using the packaging from some vellum that I had, and it had a nice thick heavy piece of cardboard in the back of it. So I am trimming it down to make 2 covers and a spine. Then I'm just looking through these other items. The gift bag, I'm going to hold on to that. And I had this piece of junk mail. I'm going ahead and folding it in half, getting it ready to be a single signature journal. Then I have the rest of the packaging here from the vellum. I'm actually going to trim off the flat piece and use this to make a cover also. So in all, I am prepping 3 different covers, but we're only going to work on one in this video. So I'm measuring out to find the center, and then I'm giving myself a 1-inch spine. So I'm measuring a 1/2 inch from the center on either side, and I'm making my little tick marks so that I know where to score it. This is a pretty heavy piece of cardstock, so it's a little tough to score it, but I managed to get it done. And I'm using a Dollar Tree stylus for this. So now I'm rubbing out where I made a mistake with the score in the center, and here I am folding on the lines and lining up my covers, burnishing that fold, and prepping this for being a book cover. So I decided with the 3 that I've started, I want to work on this one. So I am also going to cut a piece that's slightly less than the width of the spine to reinforce the spine area. So that piece is slightly smaller than the spine, and I am going to go ahead and glue that on the inside. I'm using Fabri-Tac glue. So I'm just flipping through the papers that Yolanda sent me and trying to decide what I would like to use to wrap the cover. And I'm going to go with a light peachy color wood grain. So I'm just measuring out to make sure that I have enough excess around my base and trimming off the excess paper. I have a lot of things floating around on the desk because of the pile of stuff that I was going through, and I just sorted everything and decided to work on this. So I'm going ahead and adding some glue to part of the cover. I'm trying to do this a little different. Usually I would add the glue to the entire cover, but it does dry fast, so I'm only going to do half the cover, and then I'm going to use a spatula to spread that glue out. Spreading the glue keeps you from having lumps and bumps and air bubbles. It prevents a lot of that. So now I'm going to do the other half. Spread the glue and press it down. And here I'm going to use the Dollar Tree scraper to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles, to press out any excess glue and make sure everything is smoothed down and adhered well. Here I have my corner tool. It has a specific name. I don't remember what the name is, but I use this. I don't always use it, but I use it sometimes to make sure that I leave enough space away from the corner when I miter the edges, so that when I fold it over, I have clean corners. Now, I just cut off a corner and I didn't really need to do that yet. So I left in my mistakes. They're not big mistakes, small mistakes, but I usually like to keep the corners on until after I add the double-sided tape to the wrap, so that when I cut the corners, I cut my tape and everything is cut evenly. So here you see me adding tape to the edge of the cover base and to the edge of the scrapbook paper, so that when I fold it, I do that so that when you fold it over, you have coverage on that entire flap. So now that I've added the tape, I'm going to go ahead and burnish it down, make sure that it is adhered well. And I am working on the side with the shiny surface on the base. I didn't sand it, but I think it will be okay. And here I'm going ahead and removing the backing after I close my glue. And then I remember, oh, you need to cut those corners off. So I cut the corners. So now my tape is nice and even. I don't have to worry about aligning my tape to the angled section. And now I'm scoring around the edge of the base just to help train the scrapbook paper, which is actually a cardstock, and get it ready to fold. So here I just use the momentum of the piece itself to help me with the folding. It's so much easier to get a nice clean fold when you do it that way, instead of trying to lift the cardstock up and place it over your base. Just fold your base over the cardstock. And I'm just burnishing in the spine area to make sure that the cardstock is adhered well to the tape. I had a little piece of the backing get stuck in there, so I'm using tweezers to pull that out. With using the miter tool that I used, it did leave a little too much space on those corners. So I am going to end up having to try to fix that. But I'm folding over the last flap of the wrap. And again, checking those corners. It's just too much paper there, so I'm going to go ahead and trim some of that off. So this is really the kind of thing that I like to do. I don't plan every day, all day. It may seem that way, but I don't. And if you would like to see more videos like this, let me know. This is what I do on the Journal Life's Journey channel, but I would really like to do more of that over here and use Journal Life's Journey for live streams. So let me know what you think. So here you just saw me using the ruler to help train that paper and fold it over. I try to avoid cracking on the spine, but I just can't seem to do it. I will end up with some cracking, but it's okay because I have plans for this cover, so the cracking won't even be an issue. So here I was just flipping through to see what paper I want to use for the inside cover, and I'm going to go with this. It's got a subtle pattern, but it's still got the wave theme. It's got that nautical water theme, and this is a nautical inspired cover based on the papers. So it has mermaids and shells and things like that, beach scenes. So I trimmed down the cover piece, and I'm going to do one for the other side and also a piece for the spine. So I have my two inside covers. Now I need to cover the spine area. The piece that offcut that I had will work perfectly. So I'm going to attempt to use that. And I also wasn't sure if I wanted to use fabric. So I am going to tear a piece of this cotton fabric. Again, not sure if I wanted to do the paper spine or the fabric spine or a combination of the two. So I didn't really want to put it over the fabric, and I also didn't want the fabric over the paper. So I decided to go ahead with the paper spine. I'm using the glue to adhere to that, and just to make sure, because the spine area receives a lot of the stress on the paper, I decided to go ahead and add some double-sided tape as well, just to make sure that everything sticks. I'm even going to run a piece down the center, just for good measure. I'm gluing down that spine piece. And pressing down in the folds, training that paper and getting it ready to fold. And this would have been perfect. However, I was thinking, well, these little edges are going to show, so let me miter those too. Huge mistake. Maybe if I'd have done them a little smaller miter instead of such a big miter, it would have been okay. But I went overboard and cut off too much, and I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. But you'll see here why this is going to be a problem. Luckily, I used the wet glue and the tape. If I hadn't used the wet glue, it would have been a bigger issue than it turned out to be. So here I'm realizing, because I cut the miters, now my inside cover pieces were not going to cover that area like they should. That area was going to be exposed. So I'm figuring out I can't use this piece because I've already cut it up. So I'm peeling it off, and again, because I used a wet glue and not just the double-sided tape, I was able to pull it off before that wet glue completely dried. Some pieces I was not able to pull off, but for the most part, I was able to pull it off. So it's not always easy. I make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but I try my best to recover from the mistakes. So here I'm deciding, well, maybe I can use another piece of cardstock, or I can use the fabric. I could cut this off, cut down, But in the end, I decided to use a piece of book page, and so maybe that was a happy mistake because I got a feeling that the cardstock may have been too thick to begin with. So I'm just using this piece of book page that was in that pile of stuff that I sorted out, and I'm just trimming it down, using my ruler to tear it down to the size that I need it to be. And for the most part, this won't show in the end. I don't know if I'm going to do a floating spine or if I'm going to actually stitch to this spine, but not much of that text will be showing. I'm also switching glues. I'm using the art glitter glue because I am using the book page and it is much thinner. And so the art glitter glue will hold it just fine. And I'm going to spread that out. And place the book page. So I only put the glue in the center area. So now I'm going to go around the edges where the book page wasn't glued down and add glue there as well. Use the scraper to spread the glue. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue down the inside covers. And if you notice, I'm not using any inking. I'm not inking any edges for this. I'm just using the paper as it is. And hopefully this will come out the way that I want. So, I mean, I could wait and do these videos and have a completed project, but I kind of want you to see how it goes in real time. Let me know if that works for you because I can, as I work on these, show you my progress on a daily basis or every other day or however often I work on them. I will share them in that way. So here I'm just using the bone folder to spread the glue. I'm letting the glue dry for a bit while I pull out the pages that I want to use in this journal. Here I'm using the cover to determine what size I need to cut these pages down to. And so I'm cutting down the height. I think it was 8 inches. Yes, it's 8 inches because I'm cutting off 4 inches off of each page. And typically I don't like to use the cardstock for my pages because this cardstock, well, in this instance, the cardstock is single-sided, and that means I need to do some decorating on the other side of the page or stamping or something to that white space. But I really want to start using up scrapbook papers or cardstocks. So this is kind of what I make. So this is the best way for me to do it. Here I have my 12 by 12 piece and I scored at 4 inches instead of cutting it at 4 inches so that I could make a pocket with that piece. So now this dried a little bit. I'm working on folding it again. So here I'm just using my ruler to measure out. I think it was 4.5 inches. And so I'm folding the papers. This one will have a flap or a pocket on it. That way I don't have extra to cut off. I'm doing the same thing here. So any excess width will just be trimmed or torn off. So I'm thinking this gold piece will be the center. I'm starting out thinking that I just want one signature. I'm going to add some other papers to this to help fill it out so that it's not just cardstock. So I have some papers that were dyed with ribbon here that I'm going to include. I have the ledger paper. I'm folding and trimming and adding to the signature to fill it out. Flipping through to see how the pages are flowing. Here's some other papers that I have in my stash to use. This is packing papers, papers that I have painted or dyed. This is art paper, student art paper, and I'm going to use that to make a couple of pages. This is some more packing paper that I have been holding on to. I think I even ironed this, maybe, I don't know. But I'm going to tear it down to fit in the journal. This is the really thin craft colored packing paper. And when I'm making these signatures, I like to have a variety of different papers, different textures, different styles, and I like there to be some contrast in the color as well. So this is a signature that I've come up with, and I'm just holding it up to the cover to see what I think. And I'm preparing to trim down these pages as far as the width. So I'm measuring out on that first page, just checking myself to make sure how wide I want the pages to be. And I'm making my little tick marks, and I'm going to use my ruler to press the pages down, make sure everything is folded and tightly before I start tearing the edges off. Basically, I'm tearing the edges off to trim it down to the size or width that I need it to be. Here the cardstock didn't tear smoothly, so I just drew a line of where I needed to cut at, and I cut the jagged edge off. And I'm going to go ahead and finish tearing off the thinner papers. So here we have a cover that's a basic cover that's ready to go. We have a simple signature, but I'm now deciding that signature is going to be too thick. So I'm going to divide it into 3 signatures. For some reason, I like to have an odd number of signatures in my books. So I could have done 2, but I prefer to do 3, 5, 7, like that. So I'm just flipping through. I don't have enough pages in each of these signatures. They do need to be filled out with more pages. In the next video, I will probably be adding to the signatures, but that's it for this video. This is the base. This is my cover. It has some cracking. I'm going to have to work on that. And yeah, so here we go. This is the kind of thing I like to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, here's some other videos you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.